I'm Harrison Graham. Welcome to Chicago Bears Now. Coming up on today's show, I put together the perfect free agency plan for the Bears as we are 3 weeks away, less than 3 weeks away from the tampering period of NFL free agency, which starts on March 11th. Now, you look at the Bears free agency outlook. Projected cap space, 70-ish million. Now, there was a recent report that the NFL projected cap could end up being around $250 million. Right now, the projection's $242, $243. So if it gets up to $250, you're looking at $77-ish million, which would be great. Now, since the Bears have 2 top 10 picks, their cap hit cost for the current draft picks they have, it's around $15 million. So that really gives you about $55 million to work with in free agency. And really, that's more like $50 million because you want to have $5 to $7 million for in-season spending, injuries pop up, etc. And so on today's exercise, I've got roughly $50 million in cap space to hit, like cap hit to use. Like obviously, like if you sign someone to a 2-year, $20 million contract, that doesn't mean his cap hit has to be $10 million this year. You can restructure it, but I've roughly $50 million for the 2024 cap hit to work with. Since I got to save $5-6 million for in-season spending, and again, $15 million or so is being allocated to the 2024 draft class. So, who is the number one free agent that you want the Chicago Bears to sign? I want to know who's the one guy you want the Bears to sign. Maybe it's Chris Jones, maybe it's Danielle Hunter, maybe it's Mike Evans, maybe it's Saquon Barkley. Drop a name down in the comments. Who is the one guy you want the Bears to sign? The first part of my free agency plan is extending Jaylon Johnson. Now, the good news for the Bears is you have the franchise tag at your disposal, so that's a worst-case scenario, if you ask me, is placing him under the tag. And I've mentioned it on prior episodes that he probably will be franchise tagged initially, but ideally you get an extension done to A, keep him here long-term, and B, have that cap hit be lowered a little bit this year. I mean, he's earned it, man. He was a good player his first 3 years. He was a great player in this last year of his contract, arguably the best corner in the National Football League. I mean, teams just got to the point where they stopped throwing at him because bad things kept happening to quarterbacks who did. Now, again, I mean, there's a chance he's going to want to reset the QB market, and I would say his play alone this year, he would have a decent argument. Now, if you're the Bears, the pushback is, well, you've had some minor injury concerns. You've never played a full 17-game season, so that should not result in being the highest paid corner. So I think, I could see Jaylon's camp saying, I want $21.5, $22 million per year. I could see the Bears being like, $18 million considering the injuries. And then ideally you find that happy medium somewhere in the middle. So here is my contract projection for Jaylon Johnson. 3 years, $60 million, $15 million per year, $45 million guaranteed, and then a $16 million cap hit this year. So, by the way, that's a complete typo on my part. $20 million per year on the average. Initially, I had it 4 years, but I changed it to 3. $20 million per year. That's my fault. But the cap hit this year, $16 million. You can give him a big signing bonus to lower that year one cap hit if you wanted to. Like, say out of that $60 million and the $45 guarantee, you give him $25 guaranteed right off the bat. And then you get that. There you go. Updated there from Jeremy Chugs. Appreciate that. So get the cap hit down instead of $20 million per year. Get it in that 16 range. Which is, by the way, about $2.5 million cheaper than the franchise tag if he plays under the tag, which is about $18.5 million. So that would be ideal. Lock him up, give him some good guaranteed money. Not quite the highest paid core in the NFL, but firmly top 5. Something that both sides should and likely would be happy with. Number 2, I would sign Danielle Hunter. Now, I went back and forth on this because, again, you got $50 million-ish in terms of cap hit money to work with, and Jaylon Johnson and Danielle Hunter could take a big chunk of that. But the more I thought about it, with the draft capital you have, it's not like you have major defensive needs. Like, I'm willing to go big on a couple of these contracts and then just kind of fill the rest out with players that can help, and then obviously hit on some draft picks. I just think Danielle Hunter is such an impactful player. I mean, you get him in here with his 16.5 sacks and his consistent pass rush win rate and his ability to just wreck quarterbacks. You put him opposite of Montez Sweat. I love that idea. You get DeMarcus Walker back to being a heavy reserve, a guy who rotates in a lot at 3-tech and at edge. You hope Javon Dexter takes a step forward. Maybe you bring back Justin Jones for cheap at defensive tackle, but you bring in Danielle Hunter. I mean, you've gone from heading into last season with arguably the worst edge group in the NFL to arguably the best duo in the NFL overnight. I mean, Pittsburgh would probably be better. That's about it. I think the Chargers are going to have to split up Bosa and Max. So this is the projection we've got here. 3 years, $66 million for Danielle Hunter. $22 million per year. You give him $50 million guaranteed. Again, give him a little bit of a juicy signing bonus, and then have his cap hit be $20.5 million this year. So if you're keeping tabs at home, $36.5 million or so is off the books out of the $50 million in terms of cap hit this year. So yeah, that's a good chunk of what you have available, but this is likely the top edge to hit the market. This is a major need for you. You put him on the edge of that defensive line. I mean, the only question marks on that defense right now are your defensive line pass rush. Danielle Hunter solves a lot of those problems. So I like this idea. 3-year deal makes sense for a guy who's going to turn 30 next year. Hopefully you get 2 elite years out of him. You make a decision in year 3 whether to bring him back or not, and then you go from there. Would you pay Danielle Hunter $20+ million per year? Type P for pay or D for don't. I would. Now, if he wants 26, 27 million, I'd hesitate for that price tag, but if you can get him 22, I'd probably even go up to 23, maybe 24. I would certainly be open to that. P for pay, D for don't. Let me know what you guys think when it comes to Danielle Hunter. Next up is Connor Williams. I would sign the center who's set to be a free agent with the Miami Dolphins. Now, this is a tricky one because the medical is going to be a big deal here when it comes to Connor Williams because he did tear his ACL in November, so that's going to have to check out when you bring him in the building if you do sign him. And remember, we saw a couple of years ago the Bears signed a defensive tackle to a big contract, brought him in for his physical. He failed it, so the contract fell apart, and they had to pivot to Justin Jones. You'd have to feel good that would not be the case here, but man, if the medical checks out, he was having one of the best seasons in the NFL last year among centers. Graded out well, only gave up 1 sack. His run blocking's always been good as he used to be a guard. Now he's a center. Pass blocking isn't stellar, but it's still pretty damn good. He's a little grabby at times, but I think his contract, he's not going to get a super big deal. So I think you look at this, you can get him for like 2 years, $15 million, $7.5 million per year. You could go a little less than the guarantees, give him like 9 guaranteed, so year 1's fully guaranteed. He gets an extra $1.5 million. So if it doesn't work out, you could cut him next year. Cap hit this year of $6 million, so the dead cap the year after could be $2-3 million bucks, depending on how you structure it. So again, now you've spent 42.5 of that $50 million or so that you have, and assuming he's ready for week 1, in this case, you'd have to have another guy in camp ready to go. Whether you bring back Lucas Patrick, barf, but as a backup, I don't hate it, or whether you get someone in the draft, which I would like that better. You would need another center option, but if Williams is healthy, I think he's a top 10, maybe even top 5 center in this league right now. Next up is Josh Reynolds. So, I've liked the idea of Curtis Samuel, but PFF has him getting $9 million bucks per year, and, he's a good player, and he's better than Tyler Scott and Velus Jones, but a lot of his value is with that jet sweep and those kind of gadgety things he can do. Say what you want about Scott and Jones, they can do those things. So as long as one of those guys can give you that element, that speed, Josh Reynolds can be a reliable player for you. So we'll talk about him here in just a second, but hey, listen, if you're subscribed to Bears Now, spam FGB in the comments, in the chat if you're watching live right now. If you aren't, hit that sub button and then spam FGB. Let's get it popping here. Trying to get to 88,000 subscribers for publishing videos every single day. Hit the sub button. Once you do, spam FGB in the chat. Josh Reynolds is just quietly a solid player, right? Now, he didn't have a great NFC Championship game. Didn't squeeze that 4th down one. Dropped another big one later. So that obviously stings a little, but could benefit the Bears. That might hurt his market by a few million bucks. He's a pretty reliable number 3 type of receiver. He's a good route runner. He's played in those McVay systems for a long time. He played with the Rams for a while. he averaged 15 yards per catch last year, second most in his career. Like, if that's your number 3, a guy on the outside, whereas you can play DJ Moore in the slot or on the outside, I don't mind that at all, man. And PFF thinks he's going to get $5-6 million bucks. So 2 years, $11 million, 5.5 average, give him about $7 million guaranteed. Cap hit $4.5 million bucks. If it doesn't work out, you take a $2.5 million dead cap in 2025. No harm, no foul. I think he can come in here, give you 40 catches, 500-600 yards. Like, that's what you want out of your number 3 receiver. Give you 3-4 catches a game, be reliable. He's a good run blocker, which I value as well, and I know teams in this McVay system do as well because they run a lot of that toss crack, so you need your receivers to block. I think he's a good fit. He knows the division playing in Detroit, and the Lions might let him go. And then finally, sign Alohi Gilman. So, again, after the Reynolds deal, you're at about $46-47 million in spent money. So you got a few million bucks to play with. I think that gets you out of the Geno Stone range probably, unless you want to structure things down the road a lot, which Ryan Poles hasn't done. He likes to remain flexible year in, year out. Alohi Gilman, as a first-year full-time starter this past year, took advantage of that opportunity. Graded out really well, had a couple of interceptions, 10 brass breakups. Now, they moved him around on that defense. I do think the grades are probably inflated a little bit, just how they utilized him, but he's not going to cost you much. He finds the football. He plays in run support. I mean, and it's a pretty strong safety free agency class, so he might be a guy that's just sitting there on the second, third wave and just kind of has to take whatever's left. So give him a 1-year deal, $3 million bucks. Guaranteed, give him 1.5 guaranteed. I think, probably have him compete in camp, bring in a guy in the middle rounds of the draft. Let Elijah Hicks get in the mix there. I'm not a big Hicks guy, but he can compete. But Gilman's got good ball skills. He's not going to break the bank for you. And, I think he's a starting caliber safety. Now, is he going to replace Eddie Jackson from his leadership and intangible standpoint? No. Is he production-wise? He could. I mean, he was a better player than Bojack last year. Now, it's a completely different system, completely different situation. I get all that, but you get a starting caliber free safety for $3 million bucks. I mean, that's pretty damn good value at the end of the day. I will say, again, in this scenario, I would probably draft a safety in the 3rd or 4th round as well to get some competition in there. So there you have it. Perfect free agency plan based with the money you have. You extend Jaylon Johnson, you sign Danielle Hunter and Connor Williams, Josh Reynolds, Alohi Gilman, get some key players at key positions, and then, you're going to get some vet minimum type of guys, some cheaper players to fill out your roster, some depth, maybe sign a cheap running back in there as well. You could bring back Deontay Foreman if you wanted to, and then you enter the draft and start filling some other needs. You get a number 2 receiver, get another tight end, etc., and you go from there. So who is the number 1 free agent you want the Bears to sign? I asked you off the top of the video. I'll ask you again. Who is that one guy you want the Bears to sign? Drop his name down in the comment section below. And again, don't forget to subscribe. FGB Crew, stand up. If you're a subscriber to us here at Chicago Bears Now, we'll be here all offseason long, so don't forget to turn on those notifications either. Bear down, FGB. We'll see you soon.